All good. I like your t-shirt.
I, I, I don't know who it's supposed to be. It's just
No,
some I
I
just
don't.
drug
Are they on?
out.
Are they on specials? There's a few others that have got them as well.
This is one of the first ones, I think.
Oh, it
Yeah,
is, mate. Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
You're the original OG.
I am.
Yeah.
Yes.
No,
So, how
thank
are
you.
you?
I'm all right, mate. Yeah, I'm good. Um, yeah. Well, you know my story. You know everything. I'm quite open about everything that I've been through. But yeah, generally, pretty good. To be fair, the um the consultations and the medication, I've got to a point now that's working, like working well. So,
You're sort of like preempting the conversation here because we're going to build up to
okay, all right, we can cut that out then, can't you?
that. So, this is for Dale's Gig Reviews and Metallaville Online Magazine. And I've invited you along to talk a little bit about your journey, Fireheart's journey, and mental health in general, because that's
Yeah,
a major topic at the moment and affecting a lot of people since COVID.
yeah.
So your particular journey leading up to the end of the Hot One 2,
Mm.
you've struggled with your mental health and you've been quite open with it with your podcasts. Do you want to tell me a little bit about that journey?
Yeah. So the whole filming, the diary and journaling came from therapy, really. So I mean, I was having mental health issues before the demise of me and my last band. So it started for me really by having a situation happen to me in my life with my family, specifically my parents, where I became estranged from my parents, and I never really understood why the situation happened. And I still can't to this day because it's a very strange story. It's not for now, but it's a story that I can't really explain as to why we've ended up where we have, but we have. So so there was quite a bit of heartbreak there. The best way I can describe it is it's kind of like losing your parents in a car accident. You know, they're kind of gone the next day, um, but they're still alive, which makes it kind of hard because if they were gone, it would be an end, and that would be a conclusion to it. Whereas with them still being alive, it's kind of hard to deal with. So I started having therapy for that. Um, I ended up talking to my therapist about, kind of understanding why that situation occurred. Um, and the we got into the background of my actual parents, their upbringing, what they were kind of how their parenting styles were, all the learned behavior they had, and how that had been kind of put onto myself.
Yeah.
And it all kind of started to make a bit more sense. But the journaling came from the therapist saying to me, look, you need an outlet because your head is full of all these thoughts, right? And it's overwhelming. And it sounds very cliche, but it's true. She said, your stress bucket is 90% full. So when you go to work, it only takes that 10% and then it starts overflowing and it gets
Yeah.
overwhelming. So she says, so we've got to empty your stress bucket. We've got to get all that out. We've got to empty it. And you've got to find a way of slowly emptying that bucket every day so that you've got capacity to be able to do what you need to do. And
I've
again,
never heard it referred to as a stress bucket before. I like
yeah,
that.
yeah, I know it's very cliche, but it's true, and it's an
Yeah.
analogy. It's an analogy that I understood. So she said, whatever that outlet may be, you need to find a way of getting it out and find a way of, understanding that you're making some progress, and you need to take some credit for that. You need to understand, kind of where you are on your journey and how far you've come. So that's where the journaling came. I was kind of like, if I film this, one, I can see how I am at the time. Two, my Facebook memories will remind me in 12 months' time, and I'll be able to look back at that and I'll be able to see just where I am at this point of time against where I was at that point of time. And really, that's why I did it. I didn't start doing it because I wanted people to give me sympathy. I didn't start doing it because I wanted to come across as, somebody that was an advocate or anything like that. It was very selfish. It was just very much like, this is my outlet. If I film it, I can then refer back to it and learn from it. And that's why I did it. And if people get something out of it, then that's amazing. That's great. But that's not the primary reason of why I do it. I do it mainly for my own benefit,
So
if that
you
makes
can look
sense.
back, you can see, oh my God, I thought I was going through problems back then, and look at me, and I'm since then I've gone through worse, and look how bad I were then, but look how strong I am now, and you can
Exactly
see
that.
the resilience that's built up in you.
Because you don't always take credit. And people that have a similar condition to myself, we're very good at beating ourselves up. We're very good at going, oh, why am I like this? Nobody else is like this, and the mind keeps ruminating, and you keep going, and you keep beating yourself up. Whereas you need to sometimes just stand back and kind of look at it and go, okay, but look where you were and look where you are now.
Yeah.
Because the videos that I was filming before were, I mean, I watched some of them back and they're quite heartbreaking when I see how I was there up until this point. I mean, I've been on a long journey since then. I've had, diagnosis. I've been fortunate enough to see a psychiatrist, to get on a proper, monitoring regime and have access to that, which a lot of other people don't have access to. So I'm very, very
And again,
fortunate.
Kev, you're jumping ahead before we got to that part of the story. We've still got quite the arc to get before we get to your diagnosis.
Okay, sorry, mate. Well, I'll rewind a little bit then. In terms of kind of how it's come to where it has with kind of journaling and how that's helped me. I understand and fully respect that people don't feel comfortable talking about this sort of thing, and I totally get it when people say, I don't want to talk about it really, and I want to keep it to myself. And there is a stigma around mental health, whether you believe there isn't or not. There genuinely is. I was
So my
very
partner is just pointing at me every time you said about not talking. She's going like that at me, pointing directly
Yeah,
at me.
but it's true, and unfortunately, we live in a world where social media and everything else, all you're seeing is highlights. You see everybody's best bits, and that does have a negative impact, especially like when you're trying to play in an industry like music, right? I find social media, it's a blessing and a curse. So I
Yeah.
have to have social media because it's a way of us getting our product, our band out there to people that might be interested in it. But it's cutthroat, it's competition all the time. It's people, constantly posting their best bits. I mean, how many people, Dale, as a question for you, how many people have you seen on your timeline from bands where you see the obligatory crowd shot at the end of a gig, right? And you've got this band and all the crowds behind them. I've done it myself, right? All the crowds behind them, and you scroll through and you go, wow, they've got loads of followers, loads of fans. But how many of those have you seen where the band's there and there's no one behind them? And I can tell you now, pretty much every band has been through that, where they've been on a tour, there've been five people showing up, but we don't show that bit. We show the bit that it's all smoke and mirrors, right? And
Yes.
that's the thing is when I started posting all of this on Facebook and Instagram and all that sort of stuff, I just thought, do you know what? I don't care whether people see that I'm not successful. I don't care whether people see if I'm struggling or what, because this is real life, right? This is what happens. My life isn't perfect. I don't, like I see people from my past, my secondary school that I haven't spoken to in 20, 30 years. And there's pictures of them stood in front of an Audi R8 or something, and you go, how's that little so and so ended up with a car like that? And he hasn't. The reality is he hasn't.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
he's seen it and he's taken a photo with it. But that's
Yeah.
that's what social media is, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, the surprising thing is I've only known you for just over a year, and it feels a lot longer for me because I've been part of that journey for a year, and bloody hell, fire has been a roller coaster. Your videos, one thing I have noticed is you have the highs of your live performance, and then after the live performance, it's a free fall and you
Mm,
crash.
yeah.
And your videos, some of your most upsetting videos and the way you're pouring out and you're really upset is usually like a day or 2 days after a live performance. So you've had that big adrenaline rush and then you crash.
Mm.
And you seem to be on this roller coaster, but you're going up and up and up, and you had that fantastic Stone Dead performance, which was just off the scale, amazing.
Thank you.
And I'm not lying here. My partner sat there, she'll be nodding like this. When you finished, and we are all euphoric, I said, that is absolutely fantastic, but they're going to get rid of Kev. And she says, how do you mean? I says, well, they're all serious and they're all there, with the flowing locks and looking all like rock stars. Kev's there and he's pointing at the fans, he's waving at the fans, he's doing his usual gurning, which we all love. He's running around the stage. He's not the serious rock star with the rock star pose, and he's different to the rest of the band. But me and obviously everybody else felt it was different in a good way. And that's how I saw it. And that's how I saw it on the day, seconds after your performance. I said, they're going to get rid of Kev. Unfortunately, it did happen. And it happened. They waited till the end of the tour, I believe. And
Yeah,
they did it extremely publicly.
yeah.
And
To be honest, Dale, it's one of those things that has happened and can't change what's happened.
no,
The way it was dealt with is the way it was dealt with. I can't really comment on that, and I can't really comment too much on, kind of why it happened and the ins and outs of it. All I'm worried about now is just focusing on kind of recovery and getting better and doing things that have a positive impact in my life, because I would there were times, I'm very proud of what we achieved and what I achieved with the Hot 1-2. I'm very, very proud of that.
yeah,
And you know I would have hoped it would have ended differently, but it's ended the way it has. And
yeah,
what I have learned from it, though, is that you know the mental health side of it, it's a lot, not just for myself, but for others around me to have to deal with. Because if you don't understand yourself and you don't understand what's happening yourself, how can you
yeah,
expect others to? And how can you expect others to adapt, and kind of make allowances if you don't know what you're making allowances for? And that's where this whole thing has been really, it has been a roller coaster and it has been a journey, but it's been one now where finally I feel like I'm getting some answers. I'm in a good spot. Um, I'm in a band that has made me realize just how different personalities and different approaches can change the dynamic of being in a band. Because being in a band, you spend an awful lot of time in music and investing time in other people away from your family, so it has to be
yeah,
right. And to be fair, one thing that we have found in Fireheart, and I'm not sure how it's happened, is that managed to find a group of musicians that are genuinely like my best friends, even though I've only known them. Well, I've known Russ a little while, but I didn't know Brett or Chris before starting the band. So I'd known Russ because I toured and he was guitar teching for These Wicked Rivers. So when we played shows with them, I kind of got to know Russ then. Um, but yeah, it's just like a breath of fresh air. It's just
yeah. Well, this
everyone.
is what I wanted to get to, is because obviously when all that happened after your tour and you were no longer a part of the Hot 1-2, we had a little bit of a media blackout from Kev, and which is understandable. No more socials. It didn't last long because Kev can't be without socials for long. But us as us as viewers were like, no, we need
Yeah,
more. We want more of this
yeah,
story, and everybody seemed to get very invested. And then you came back, as this is the phoenix coming out of the ashes, reborn. The phoenix is reborn, and out you come. We've got a band, hurrah! And it's called Fireheart. And without releasing any music, you managed to amass 2,000 fans, which is absolutely incredible.
yeah,
Then you released Staring at the Sun, which is probably up there with one of my favourite power ballads, along with Guns N' Roses' November 8. It is
Wow.
up there. I think
Wow,
it's
that's an honour,
absolutely,
mate.
no, I think it's tremendous. I really do. And then you're announcing tours, you're announcing EPs, and it's all amazing. It's really the phoenix rising from the ashes, and everybody's very excited. And as you know, I've listened to the EP, I've reviewed the EP, and quite rightly, you've got this mental health thing because your whole story is about mental health. You've all
Yeah.
chosen a particular colour. Your colour is red, I believe.
No, mine's blue and it's truth.
No,
So
sorry,
yeah, yeah, no, Russ is red and passion. But what came
that's it.
what came about
Russ is
it?
red.
Yeah, what happened, Dale, with all of that was there's been like I think there's been some confusion as well because the the whole the whole band thing and opening the gates right at the very start. So I thought long and hard about this, and before kind of wanting to get out and play again, I there was a lot of questions that I was asking myself: should I be doing it? Can I do it again? Are people interested? Is it worth doing? All of this stuff that kind of goes around your head. But I actually thought, to be true to myself, I'm not a rock star. I've never tried to be a rock star. I'm somebody that I have a normal job, I have a mortgage, I have a wife, I have two children, I have the normal life, right? I have a passion for playing music, right? But I don't portray myself as being someone that I'm not. So one of the things that I thought long and hard about when launching the band was, do we want to launch the band with all these nice glossy promo photos with all of that package that comes out with it, and back fighting and all of this? Do I want to do that, or do I want to stay true and actually go, well, guys, I'm just going to be honest with you, I'm nervous about playing again, I want to play again. um, but let's open it up. Let's show you what it's like right from the beginning of a band. This is how a band starts. You'll get to see the whole end-to-end process of it. You will see members coming in, you will see music being written, you'll see merch coming out, you'll see all of that, and we'll see how it goes. Right. And I discussed this with the band because there was a full lineup before we went public, but we didn't announce everyone straight away. And the reason for that was because there's a lot of people. You say, the band amassed a couple of thousand followers right from the off and everything else, and I've seen people post on YouTube about, how have Fireheart done this? How have they done that? They've genuinely got these fans that have come across, and it's incredible. We want to know how they've done it. This didn't happen overnight. This is 5 years of touring, right? And this is buying people a beer in the bar at a show, spending time getting to ask them about them, not about us, not about the band. It's about.
You didn't buy me a beer.
I'm sure I've
No,
bought you
no,
a
no,
beer.
no, no, no. You didn't buy me a beer.
Oh, well, we'll make that happen then, Dale. We'll make that happen on the tour. I'll make sure I can get you and Tracy a beer, so don't stress about that. And that's a promise, and you got that on tape, so that's fine. But no, genuinely, it is. It's investing your time in people, and that's one thing that I've always done. Is I've not tried to keep myself backstage. I've not tried to act like a rock star. What I've tried to do is build a foundation and a relationship with people.
Yeah,
And I've always been all right with people, to be fair. As something that I think is a skill that I'm fortunate to have, is that I'm genuinely interested in the people that come and show support to us. Like and I say this to everyone: the show should never be about the band. It should always be about the fans, and it should always be
yes,
about the following. And you have to make that following feel good, right? And if you
yeah,
can make them feel good, and they go away feeling like you've given them their money's worth, then that's what it's about. If you're locking yourself in your dressing room and only coming out at you know certain time, and not investing time in people, and that's why I'm so active on social media as well, is it's investing time in people and making sure that people feel like they are appreciated and wanted, because they are.
yeah.
So starting the whole thing with Fireheart and opening those floodgates right from the start was a strategy. It was, this is what we're going to do, and we're going to be ourselves, and we're not going to try and be people that we're not, and we're going to show people the good and the bad. And you saw that with Lee, who came and he went. guitarist wise. We could have not said anything. We could have tried to hide it, but we didn't. It was a bump in the road early days in the band, but it happened, right? So we showed people, and I think genuinely having that approach is so different to what I've seen in the past. But it does come with its challenges and its pressures, because when you do it that way, it's all backwards. A band generally would get together, they'd bond, they'd write some music, they'd have some photos done, they'd release some music, they'd play some shows, then they'd start building their following. What's happened
Yeah.
here is the following's there waiting, and we've got no music, and we've got no glossy photos, we've got nothing to give. And then you've got the following going, where's the merch, where's the merch, where's the merch, where's the merch? And we're going, merch, we ain't got any songs. And they're going, no, we love what you stand for, we love that you're being so open and honest, we love all of this, like, where's the merch? So then the band goes, well, people want merch, and if we don't release merch, we don't want people to not be interested. If there's a demand for it, shall we release some merch? So we release some merch, and it sells out within 24 hours, and then there's more pressure, because you go, well, they've invested money in us now. They've put a monetary investment in this band, right? So there's more pressure. So it's like, right, well, we've got to write these songs, and these songs have got to be good, because if they're crap, then people are going to go, what?
Yeah.
Why have you done that?
So
And
basically, your strategy is just like leaped, like just piled loads of pressure on you, just
it's,
because you thought you'd do things different.
Yeah, but we didn't think that far ahead, Dale, if we're being honest. And it does take its toll. It does make it harder, because you feel pressure, and then when you're wired in a way that I am,
Yeah,
you start getting worried, because you're like, well, I don't want to let people down. Like, that's one
yeah,
thing that I don't want to do, is let anyone down around this. Like, people have, they've been so supportive, and they've invested in us as a band. They're interested, they're investing their time, their money, and everything else, and now we have to deliver. And if we don't
yeah,
deliver, then I feel like I'm going to have let so many people down. But I've always been confident in the band that we have, in the musicians that we have, and the personalities that we have. So although it is a bit of pressure, it's kind of that sort of pressure that you need, because you
yeah,
get a better product out of it. You get something that is then written with real feeling, and written with emotion, and written with life experience, not
yeah,
just, thrown together a couple of old demos and just released it because we've got to just get something out there. It's very much like, right, well, what we're going to put out is going to have some meaning. It is going to have, something behind it that is more than just a song. And
yeah,
we're under no false pretenses here. We're not rewriting history with the music that we write, and we know that. We're not an original band. We know that. But what we do is we write songs that are true to us, and songs that we want to have as almost anthems. We want the audience to be able to sing along. We want those shows to be a collective, because
yeah.
Fireheart isn't just five musicians, it's everyone that's involved in that community, if that makes sense.
Listening to the songs that you've released so far, plus the EP, they're all songs that people can sing along to, which is they seem like they're going to really work well in a live setting. But on this journey from you starting Fireheart and announcing it, and then the merch and everything, you also were still on this roller coaster, and there were a few times where you crashed.
Absolutely,
Again,
yeah.
because of your blog, we've seen you crash quite publicly,
Mm.
and but then you got this relief of a diagnosis. So, can you tell me a bit about your diagnosis?
Yeah, so it's been a long journey, to be fair. So it all stemmed really from the first issue that I had when I became estranged from my parents. I had a mental breakdown probably a year or so after that happened. So I was out of work. I had to kind of come away from work for 2 months while I tried to kind of repair myself. And that was where my therapy started. So the therapy's been ongoing for, 3, 4 years. Um, and what happened was I got to a point where I was crashing more than I was being happy. I was I was finding that I was starting to get thoughts coming into my head that scared me, that and I couldn't control. It was just stuff that was happening, and I started worrying. And I was very honest with my wife, Vicky. I was just like, I can't control this. I can't control what's coming into my head and what it's telling me to do. And I'm worried now. Like, this is worrying me because although I would never genuinely think about doing something silly, um, I just kept getting this reoccurring thought of, you don't want to be here anymore. Why are you, this is no life for you. Why are you doing this? Like, and I ended up just going to see a psychiatrist. Fortunately, I have some medical care with my work, so I ended up going to see a psychiatrist, and he diagnosed me initially with a condition called GAD, which is generalized anxiety disorder. Um, so he said to me, what medication are you on? I said, well, I've been on antidepressants for 10 plus years, mainly sertraline. And he was like, I don't know why you've been diagnosed that, because you're not depressed, like you have anxiety. He said, and it might be that a tweak in medication may change how you're thinking and how you're feeling. So we changed medication, and we went on for, I don't know, maybe 6 to 12 months, and it improved, but it started creeping back. And I was having routine consultations in between that. So it wasn't just like, there's your medication, see you later. It was like, right, 3 months, let's see how you get on. And we were meeting quite regularly. And then we got to a point, and he was just like, I'm going to prescribe you some more medication, some different medication, and that's going to take the edge off of things for you. So I tried that, and it made me numb. I was so tired all the time. I couldn't like stay awake a lot when I got home from work. I was a mess, Dale. Like, honestly, the side effects were quite strong for me. Um, so on my next consultation, he basically said, I think you need to have an ADHD assessment. He said, because you're displaying characteristics of what I believe may be ADHD. So I ended up having an assessment. It came back as positive for the combined type of ADHD. And then from that diagnosis, my life changed because everything started to kind of make sense. I'd be thinking about how I was as a child and thinking about how I was at secondary school, thinking about, being a kid at school, not being very confident in putting my hand up, wanting to stay out of sight of people, just really closed and just not really, and I look back at my those kind of years of my life, and it kind of makes sense now from the symptoms that I have against having that, to this point has made me realize that even just having that diagnosis without the medication has made a massive impact on me, because it's just like things make sense now. The reason I am thinking like this and the reason I am the way I am is because I have a condition, and these are the symptoms of the condition, right? So having that was, one, a game changer in having that knowledge, but secondly, when I was prescribed the medication for it, it was an instant change. So the medication isn't a type like an antidepressant where you have to build it up in your system over a period of time, usually about 30 days, a month, something like that. This is it's a stimulant based medication, so it means that it's fast acting. It acts within probably about half an hour, and it lasts for about 12 hours. So it's very spontaneous. It happens straight away. And I first started taking it 3 days before Stone Dead this year. So when you saw me at Stone Dead, I was like a, I was like a, I was like a coiled spring, right? Because it it just quietened. My mind just went quiet. I was just like, wow, is this what it's like to just be? Like it literally. And I still take it now, and it's amazing how different I feel from
Yeah.
being correctly diagnosed and having the right medication. And it doesn't space you out or anything like that. It just literally stops the noise in your head. It stops it
Yeah.
all, and it gives you a bit of clarity. So it's it's a massive journey up to that point.
Yeah.
But looking back at my videos and looking back at the journey, a lot of that is the symptoms of the condition I have. You know,
Yeah.
a lot of it, talking a lot, interrupting people when they're talking, doing all, they're all conditions. They're all symptoms of this condition, right?
Yeah.
And that's okay. You know, now that I understand that, it's okay. Before I'd be like, oh man, you just got to let people talk. Like, why do you keep doing it? Like, what is wrong with you to keep interrupting people? Like, just let them talk. Whereas now I'm just like,
My
oh,
partner is literally pointing at me every time you say stuff like that. She's pointing directly at me.
well, I'll tell you what, Trace, he couldn't get a word in edgeways with me at Stone Dead, bless his heart. But no, it's amazing how you see all of those symptoms in that progress up until that point, you know, but just
Yeah.
not knowing that you had it.